recently translated Andre Liegnitzer's 6 Pieces for the Sword and Buckler from a transcription that was owned by Meyer at the time of his death. So I think it's really interesting to take a look at Sword and Buckler from a Meyerist perspective, and this video arises from a discussion that I had with some friends over our differing interpretation of the second piece. This is coverage by 2 shields, or double covering yourself. And what you can see up here in the first clip is just my basic interpretation of what I think is going on in the piece as a whole. And you can see this first covering, the double covering up here, is almost sort of a kurzhau or a sloping parry up, covered by the buckler, up to my left side. But you can also see there's a different way to get to this first initial bind, and this is what my friends were telling me is their interpretation. Now, at first, I was pretty dubious about this. I felt like the description of what they were saying felt very, very weak. But if you time it right, and especially if you get the leverage on your sword correctly, it feels just as strong as the first kind. So I think mostly it just comes down to your preference. Both versions of it completely satisfy the text, in my opinion, and both of them lead to what is described by the book in these attacks. So what you just saw was kind of if you have that opportunity to just kind of wind straight from that position, from that first bind, go for it. You're more likely going to have to reverse your hand and wrench their sword out of the way like you see me doing here to get that cut to the head. But then you cut to the mouth, and we're just practicing this over and over to make sure we get good footage for the video. Up next, our opponent makes a defense with their shield. They cover themselves with their buckler. And when I see their buckler come up, obviously I have to make a different choice. So the text tells us that we're going to take an aim at their left leg. So now we also have to think, what is our opponent doing that exposes their left leg? How can I get my partner here to step in such a way that opens up the opportunity as described in the text in a way that it makes sense for my opponent to move that way? So what we have here is a turn with the buckler parry. And as my opponent turns, they expose their left leg forward, and I'm able to see the buckler come up, and I'm able to avoid it and cut either to the inside or the outside of my opponent's leg, whichever one I feel is most open. It's also important to know that these variations, I think, are intentional, right? These are features, not bugs. The text, I think, is deliberately vague about a lot of things, and sometimes the text explicitly tells us you can do this in multiple ways, or, as is relevant here, this goes on both sides. And lastly, this is just a bit of sort of less constrained drilling. It's more kind of like a loose free play, but I'm telling my partner here to just send me some cuts over the shoulder so that I can try to respond textually to a very real threat in a physical space. So that first one was a big softball, real slow ball over the plate, and he really let me hammer him. But you can see later on he's making organic attacks, and I'm fitting this technique into my organic defense. Otherwise, just enjoy the bout. It was pretty fun. Thank you for watching.